Welcome back, everyone. Matic here, and today we're going to go over the oh so wonderful side kick. So far we have gone over the front kick and a round kick, and today we're going over the side kick. So what exactly is a side kick? The side kick is essentially a kick that goes technically straight out from your side. So this way. Front kick makes sense. It goes out towards the front part of the body. Round kick, people might think that it's coming from around the back part of the body, but really the round kick honestly is going around either people's shoulders or going around their guards towards the back, while the side kick is essentially from our body position is going straight out to the side. So there are technically two different ways to kind of throw a side kick, at least the actual leg extension portion. The most common way that most people believe of a side kick is one that essentially comes up and shoots straight out towards the side. And the best way that I can kind of describe this to people, especially when they're first beginning, is just imagine that you're stomping a bug that normally would be on the ground, and you're just stomping the wall. Simple enough explanation. People still don't get it, which is very surprising that side kick is technically so simple, but still so many people are not able to really get it right. It seems to be very, very hard for people to throw. So that's the most common version of how to throw a side kick. The second version is mostly done by a karate style called Shotokan. And theirs is where instead of from the hip or however you turn your body and the foot just going straight out, they actually have their knee quite a bit higher than their foot. And as it extends out, the foot makes this rising type angle and attack. And it's supposed to serve a completely different purpose. They mostly use this, if you see any of their katas, to where they have to where most other styles, they'll be facing sideways, this hand's here. Most other styles will either go here, block, throw a front kick, or in Wado, we call it a yoko-geri, side-facing kick. Shito-ryu, they'll turn forward, they'll do a front kick. Shotokan, on the other hand, will block, and then their kick will come up. And one of the ways that I've been told on what they're actually doing is, so this block is blocking a punch that's coming towards you. You grab their arm to keep them from going away. And while their arm is extended, you're slipping your foot up and hitting them here in the armpit for the opportunity to potentially dislocate their shoulder. It is a very nasty move to do, and some of the Shotokan people I've talked to have actually told me that when they train for fighting and stuff, especially like tournaments or whatever, they will train that kind of particular kick with a few slight modifications that even though their target is high up on the chest, they might not aim for the armpit exactly, but high up on the chest, if somebody moves in, then they're going to catch them more lower down, especially in these floating ribs, which would really, really hurt. So even though it is a nasty way to throw a side kick, the main problem that you'll kind of run into is if you don't have very strong knee joints, especially since you're encountering forces towards the side part of your knee, you have the potential to create unnecessary damage to yourself if you don't train the move appropriately. Which in order to do that, you just do very light, very consistent band work to try to build up the tendons and ligaments in your knee to do that particular side kick. So getting past that, we're going to do the first version of how to do a side kick, and that's where our foot essentially just goes straight out to the side. So before we can start doing that, we're going to need our old friend, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair? Surprise! Jesus. So we're going to take our chair, and again, the chair is mostly not to help us with staying up, is to help us not have to worry about having to stay up. So this is just here to correct your posture whenever you need to or your balance. So the basic way that we're going to do this can really help that if you have some kind of line that's going down the middle of your floor, anything will work, or having something directly in front of you to give you a representation of a center line. The main reason because is There's going to be a training version and a technically fighting version for this side kick. And that's on where our foot is when we bring our knee up. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that our foot is turned slightly back. All right, just turn slightly back. Some people will say to actually point your heel towards your attacker. The problem is we want to use both legs to create a strong structure for when we kick. So if you turn your foot completely this way, you're not able to lock this hip joint into your hips and have it connected here, because now you have this weak line that if someone really pushes forward hard can push you over. So we're going to push it, turn it slightly about 45 degrees. You can change it as you go to whatever feels better. So the training way that we're going to do this is we want to bring our knee as high as possible every time that we do this. So I want to bring my knee up nice and high. But notice that even if I then present this toward my opponent, my foot doesn't necessarily cover this line, this center line that I should have here. Mostly because I'm training the basic moves of the kick. When I then go to use it in actual fighting, and you should practice this version with and without someone in front of you, I want to actually bring my foot up so that it protects my center line here. That way if someone comes forward, you can just give a slight push or actually really dig the foot into them. But since we are training, we're going to primarily worry about bringing our knee as high as possible. So bring our knee up nice and tight, making sure that our foot is not hanging out and it is in. From here, we're going to rotate our hip up so that we point our foot towards our opponent or our attacker or our bag that we're doing. And then from here, we're just going to simply extend the leg. You can keep your body up, you can bring it down. We're not worried so much about that right now. We're worrying about the legs. Knee up, leg nice and tight. Present your foot towards the attacker. Extend outward, pull back, and then down. So again, knee up nice and tight. Present, extend, pull back, here, and then down. To help get each of these positions down, usually what I tell people, especially kids, is to imagine that you're at a photo shoot. I'm sure we've all seen still pictures of fighters and stuff doing techniques or whatever. Imagine that you're at one of those and the photographer has a really sucky camera. So you have to hold that position as you do the technique.
You're a tiger! You're tuning the tiger!
So again, you're going to come up, present. Notice that I turn my foot when I present, extend, pull back, and then down. Now, one thing to be sure of is when you start hitting something with this kick, you'll find that your distance kind of isn't right. You have to find that. You'll find that when you go to hit it, unless you are turned sideways, if you are having to turn your hips at all when you do this, you'll find that you might be too close, and then you'll hit the bag with your hips kind of pointed this way. So you're facing the bag and you're not really getting a good push. You might even be pushing yourself backwards. So to help counter that, a good rule of thumb to kind of use is on the leg that is doing the kicking, imagine that you're taking your butt and you're pointing it up towards the air. So where with a round kick, we want to turn ourselves completely sideways. So we have this position. With a side kick, I want to turn, instead of my butt sideways, I want to point it slightly up. Slightly up. So now that my toes are actually slightly pointed down, just slightly. And so by doing that, you wind up taking both hip joints and kind of locking them into a nice, stable position to where if someone runs into one leg, it goes in, travels through your hips, through your bottom leg, and into the ground, and you are more stable. Alrighty, so moving on to actually hitting things. So when you want to hit with a side kick, you kind of have three different parts of the foot that you can use to hit someone or hit a bag. One is I can use my heel. Some people use the heel. Some people use the entire flat of their foot. And then other people will try to use this knife edge of the foot to hit. I kind of do a combination of heel and knife edge, simply because it makes it a little bit easier for me to think, move my heel towards the target, and then as I rotate and point my butt up towards the air, it actually kind of almost makes my foot go into that knife edge position. You still have to train it, and honestly, the best way to train it is to just get used to this position on your ankles, and even just doing some strikes towards the ground. So you get used to that position and that force going into your foot. So here we have a bag that has a good amount of weight into it. So you want to find your correct distance, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up, now that I'm actually hitting something, and hopefully I've done the training version of the side kick. Now when I pick my foot up, I want to be in line with this bag. So I'm going to pick up, present, extend, focus on rotating, and then pull back. So up, present, rotate, and then pull back. Then, like all the previous ones, we are starting at a fully sideways position. Then I'm going to go to a partially forward or kicking leg forward. So now I'm still going to pick my leg up, just like all the other kicks. I'm going to pick it straight up. I don't want to pick up here. I don't want to pick up here. Mostly because that if I pick up this way, this tells the person, oh, they're either going to throw a hook kick or a side kick, most likely a side kick. So I want to pick up here, straight up, one, present. So now my knee stays in front of the target, present in front of the target, rotate, and then come back down. So up, present, rotate, and then back. Boom. And then as you get more comfortable, you can add the present and rotation together. So now we've done kicking leg forward, then we go to our sideways position, same thing, knee up, boom. Then foot back, knee up, present, rotate, and then pull back. Now in most situations, you're generally not going to be getting off a rear leg side kick, but it is still good to practice because the side kick can immediately go into other kicks. You can hide it with other kicks. You can lull someone to sleep with other kicks, and then you throw that side kick and you just cream them. Because there are people who are willing to eat a round kick and come in, but if you throw a round kick, and they start coming in, then you throw the side kick, then you can kind of make their feet come off the floor and then they hit the ground. It's happened, I've seen it, it's been done to me, it can work. But more than likely, a side kick is mostly going to be used either when a person is pushing in and you might back up a little bit and then throw a side kick to try to push them off. You might even be able to deliver some actually pretty good power into it. Another common way people use a side kick is either with a step up or even a cross step side kick. Everybody will be very familiar with the Bruce Lee side kick from Enter the Dragon. But rarely will you ever actually get that big of a wind up to deliver that much power. And if you get hit with that kind of side kick, you deserve it. Don't give your opponent that much room or time to do that to you. So that's a very simple way on how to train and use a side kick. I hope y'all learn it, train it, use it. I'm Matic, and I'll catch y'all next time. Now in most situations, you're